All right, turning attention now to the other big story that we are tracking, which is the latest as far as the India-US trade deal is concerned. It was something that has been in the works for some time, and there's a lot of expectation that it could be finalized maybe in days, maybe in hours. It is likely to be finalized before the 9th of July deadline, when the pause button that Donald Trump had put on the reciprocal tariffs actually gets kicked in, which means after 9th of July, the 26% tariff that was there, reciprocal tariffs, will kick in, which is why there's an expectation first round of the pact will come out now. How limited could it be? What could be the certain areas that would be focused on are questions that remain. But more importantly, the areas that are no-go zones for India is what is most important, on which negotiations are taking place right now. And that's exactly what my colleague Parmeshwar Bawa tells us in this report.
Mega trade deal between India and the United States is taking shape, but at the heart of it is a sharp tug of war over corn, soybean, ethanol and dairy. This isn't just about tariffs or trade routes, it's about India's farmers, our food safety and also our fuel independence. Let me just break down what's really going on. Let's start with corn. The US produces almost 9 times more corn than India, and almost all of it is genetically modified. India doesn't grow GM corn, and we don't allow it in except under tight quotas and only with steep tariffs. So where's the twist then? Well, nearly half of India's ethanol, the stuff that blends into your petrol, now comes from corn. The US says, let us export GM corn just for ethanol production. It won't enter your food chain, which sounds fairly clean, right? But not quite. Indian sugar mills already losing ground fear that this move could crush domestic sugarcane demand. And politically, it's a landmine, especially with Bihar, India's third biggest corn producer, heading into elections. Next, let's move on to ethanol itself. The US is the world's largest ethanol exporter, and it wants India to open up fuel ethanol imports. But India says no for good reason. Fuel-grade ethanol in India is more than green energy. It's actually a strategic tool to reduce oil imports and give our farmers a market for sugarcane and grains. Letting cheap American ethanol in, well, that undermines the whole point. Then comes soybean. Well, India allows GM soy oil, but not GM beans or the soy protein cake used for livestock feed. Why? Because the GM protein is in the bean, not the oil. And that's where the safety and environmental concerns lie. The US wants to change this. But soybean is grown on over 13 million hectares in states like Madhya Pradesh, Maharashtra and Rajasthan, and prices, well, they're already crashing. More imports now, that's political suicide. And finally, dairy. This one's actually non-negotiable. India's tariffs on milk powder and butter are already sky high, up to 60%. And there's a cultural red line too. Imported dairy must come from cows, not fed animal byproducts. The US says it's unscientific, India says it's non-negotiable and deeply cultural as well. Still, some experts believe the US may use dairy as a bargaining chip to push through access on corn and ethanol. But the bottom line, this deal isn't just about goods crossing borders. It's about who controls the future of Indian agriculture, who controls the future of Indian food systems and our fuel supply. And for now, India is holding firm.